Hi, this is Frank Warren and you're watching Lights Out.
This is Faisal for Lights Out, and this is podcast 20 of the Lights Out Boxing Podcast. And I've got a full house today. I'm delighted to be joined by fellow YouTubers, social media sensations. I'll start off with Jermaine Byran, all the way from the Pound for Pound Boxing Show. Jermaine, pleasure having you on. And of course, Mohim from Boxing Domination. And the guy I can never get rid of, Gulsher, one of the oldest faces in Lights Out. Lads, how's it going?
Very well, thanks for having me on, man.
It's a pleasure all ours. Before we get started, just wanted to remind the viewers out there, if they haven't already, to hit that subscribe button, to make following us on all the social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Of course, we'll be doing the exact same for the guys that have joined us today. We'll be sharing their social media platforms in the description. So make sure you check out the Pound for Pound Boxing Show and Boxing Domination on all the social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We'll be sharing them in the description. It's such an exciting time right now. It kind of feels like we're slowly getting back to a bit of normality because boxing is, it's on the rise once again after all this coronavirus situation. And we've got a very, very exciting week to look forward to. But as we do with every podcast, we haven't done one in a while, is we like to start off with a quick fire question. All the panel. I just want to get everybody's thoughts on the new Bridgerweight division. I'm going to give my thoughts. I'm just going to be straight up honest about it. I think it's a load of shit. I don't think we need it. I think it's another division. It just confuses the sport. But the concept for that kid that was attacked by a dog, I agree with that. I think that's brilliant what they're doing. But in terms of adding a new division to boxing, I think it's just, mind-blowing. Guys, your thoughts on the new Bridgerweight division?
I mean, I'm not for it. I'm the same as you. I think it's unnecessary. There's too many weight divisions as it is. Bridgerweight is, did you say, it's between cruiserweight and light heavyweight? Is that what you said?
Cruiser.
Cruiser and heavyweight. No, it's not for me. Keep it as it is. Why confuse the fans as it is?
Guys, Mohim, Jermaine, get away.
I echo that, man. There's too many belts. There's too many belts for one. I don't know if you guys have seen an interview with Floyd Mayweather. He comes out and said there's too many belts, there's too many champions, and not real champions. There's too many regular belts. And for me, I just don't think it's good. I mean, it might help for people like Babich, who's not really a big heavyweight. You could probably be in between heavyweight and cruiserweight. And lots of Dave Allen when he was boxing. The likes of maybe Michael Hunter. But for me, I don't think it works. For me, there's no point. I think it ruins the sport, having too many weight classes and too many belts.
Over to you, mate. What's your thoughts on the new Bridgerweight division?
Yeah, same. If we sort of look into it, if the new weight comes in, it's going to be 17 weight divisions. So far, we've got 16. We've obviously got from minor weight 105 till the heavyweight. Now they're trying to do super heavyweights as well, which doesn't make sense. And again, as we've said, there's too many belts. WBA's got WBA Gold, WBA Super, and the regular WBA. So they got 3 world champions under one WBA. WBC got Mayan, Diamond, and now it's the most dumbest. I think it's called franchise. And obviously, there's fighters now from the WBC, like Devin Haney's becoming a world champion by email. It doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? So I think in the new weight division, it's just it's just like them just trying to make more money, really. They just want to get more sanctioning fees, So that's about it, really. It's like the UFC when they made that belt called, I think it's called, it was for the belt BMF belt, with the Masvidal and the Nate Diaz fight. So they're just trying to copy, a bit of the UFC. UFC's copying boxing, boxing's copying UFC, and they're just trying to make more money from the fans, from the fighters, try and take more fees, and it's just going to ruin the sport, in my opinion.
Like I said, the concept behind it, the 6-year-old kid, Bridger Walker, who was attacked by a dog, trying to defend his sister in Wyoming in America. I can understand they want to do something. Weight division in boxing, crazy. Confuses the sport. I mean, if you ask people like who are world champions at certain weights, they wouldn't know everybody because it's a confusing sport. Like even me, like I interviews, podcasts, there's still things that I look at every day online and I think, oh, I didn't know that. It's because the sport itself, it's just... Anyway, Maurizio Sulaiman, I hope it all works out for you. I'm reading that the front runners to challenge for the first world title first in that division would be Deontay Wilder and Alexander Usyk. Is that a fight I'd like to see? Yes. But is that a fight to determine a new world champion in a new division? No. But anyway, guys, let's move on from the Bridgerweight division. As I said, we've not done a podcast for quite a while, but there's been so much that's been happening since we've done our last podcast. So we're just going to have to obviously go with what's been going on lately. I think for me, the biggest announcement of the year so far is December the 19th in the Alamo Dome in Texas, Canelo versus... it's a fight I've been wanting to see for quite a while now. It's a fight that I'm excited by. I think for me, it's behind Wilder Fury 2. I think it's the second biggest fight of the year. And I think it's kind of like saved the year in terms of what we've had to go through with the whole pandemic and the whole lockdown thing. And it's so exciting. And I've got to say massive credit to Eddie Hearn and massive credit to Canelo for getting this fight. I mean, it just seemed like we weren't going to see Canelo this year because he leaves Golden Boy, he leaves Oscar De La Hoya. You're just thinking he probably won't fight till next year. And then I believe 10 days later, they announce it, December the 19th, it's going down. Guys, your thoughts on the fight itself, Canelo versus Callum Smith. And who have you guys got as the favourite? And who do you think wins the fight?
I say, yeah, I think this is a really, really good fight. A really good fight. It's a fight I wanted to see happen a long, long time now. I think Smith can shot the world and defeat Canelo. The reason why I say that is because he's a good inside fighter. When he fights in the inside, he's very dangerous. So you look at some of these fights, he's actually put some guys away and fight from fighting the inside. For a big guy, he's really dangerous in the inside. He like the way he knocked out George Groves a couple of years back, and I think the height advantage in terms of the jab could pay dividends. Obviously, at 168, Smith is the real deal. He's the number one in the world, and as you said as well, that Canelo's only dominated at 160. So I believe that Smith can cause a shock here. I really do. Obviously, for me, it's not ideal that he's only been given a couple of weeks' notice for the fight. I'm sure he would have liked a longer camp. But yeah, I believe he can win that. And obviously, Canelo is probably regarded as the pound for pound best, if not second or first. But like, I just believe Smith is gonna put in a good performance and shock the world.
Just following up on that, I mean, both fighters have been inactive for quite some time. If you think about Canelo, his last fight was against Kovalev, which is over a year ago. And Callum Smith was John Ryder. Yeah. That wasn't a convincing performance. A lot of people had him, a lot of pundits were questioning, is he good enough to beat the likes of Canelo? I mean, it's interesting that Canelo had a choice of, he's had his good record against British fighters. He's beaten quite a few. And I believe there was a rumour, I don't know if it's true, he's offered the fight to Billy Joe Saunders in September or October, and he turned it down. He thought, I didn't have enough time. But I'm really...
No, that was Billy Joe Saunders who turned it down, yeah.
Yeah, Billy Joe Saunders, he turned it down, yeah. And I was disappointed with that, because Billy Joe Saunders talks a good fight. He's up for it. He's up for a challenge. And we don't know what's happening with Billy Joe Saunders in that regard, or who's his next fight.
Fight next week.
Fight next week.
Yeah.
Next week, yeah.
Oh, is that Murray fight? Is that the Murray fight?
Murray. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. So, in regards to how I see that fight going, I still see Canelo as a clear favourite. I think he's pound for pound for a reason. You know, he's number one. His game has come on leaps and bounds from that loss against Mayweather. And he's had those wars against Gennady Golovkin. Make of it whatever you want. Who won that? You know, record says he's drawn one against him and he's won one against him. And that was the next logical fight that the fans were demanding, the trilogy. That's not looking that's not going to happen anytime soon. But he's taken the next best fight, which is Callum Smith, and he's got a title. So, but just because of what Canelo Alvarez has done in the division in boxing, and he's a face of boxing, and he's earning a lot of money, he's left Golden Boy, now he's on his own 2 feet now. I think this is a fight for him to make another statement. And I've got full, I reckon he'll do it.
Big ask.
Yeah.
Mohim, what's your thoughts on Callum Smith, December 19th?
You know, before us, talk about the fight, I have to say DAZN are doing an absolutely fantastic job with the £1.99 per month, But no, obviously when it comes to the fight, I think it's a very, I wouldn't say it's a very 50-50 fight, because again, I wasn't impressed by, I didn't think Smith won his last fight. So in my eyes, Smith lost his last fight. Obviously Smith's had a impressive career so far. He's only had two disappointing fights in his career. From the fights that I've seen, and that was Nicky Holzkin in the World Boxing Super Series, and obviously John Ryder. Obviously Canelo in the past has had a few fights which I thought he lost as well, which was obviously the first Golovkin fight, and was the fight with Lara as well at 154. But I think this fight's going to be very tactical from Canelo. I think Canelo's going to get the win. I think he might be able to stop Smith, but I do think Smith is a bit too big. But I think the only way he can stop Smith is if he can come for the body. We know how powerful Canelo is when it comes to going for the body. We've seen Golovkin hurt, pretty badly in the second fight. If you've seen a couple of times, he wasn't hurt. I wouldn't say badly, but he was hurt from the body shots that Canelo threw. So obviously, I think for me, one winner would be Canelo, but Smith can take it.
You know what? I think because you more or less said that their last performances wasn't convincing, but I just think that
you can't say that about Canelo, though. I mean,
but
he's stepping up in weight.
You got to look though prior to the movement. No disrespect to Sergei Kovalev, a great fighter and everything, but Canelo, even stepping up at light heavyweight, you would expect Canelo to beat him. But back to Callum Smith, though, he wasn't convinced in his last fight. But there's a lot of people saying that he, wins the World Boxing Super Series. That's when you're thinking, the Billy Joe Saunders, the Benavidez, the Caleb Plant, these fights. But then he has to go, and after that, he beats Hassan Nadam on the Joshua Ruiz one undercard. And then you're thinking, okay, the big fights. And then he gets, and this is no disrespect, he gets landed with John Ryder. I just don't think the fights he's had since winning the World Boxing Super Series, he's got out of bed for, if you know what I mean. I just think the Canelo fight is the fight where he has to get out of bed. But I'm a big Callum Smith fan, but listen, Canelo for me for many years now has been the pound for pound king. He's been the man. He's the face of boxing. He's the best fighter in the world. And I think it's a great experience for Callum Smith. I just think unless he knocks Canelo out, which Golovkin couldn't do, I can't see Callum Smith beating Canelo, and that's no disrespect to Callum Smith. I think Callum Smith's too big for super middleweight now. I think his future will probably lie at light heavyweight now, because he's big for the weight. He's very, very big for the weight. And I do think at one point he'll probably move up to light heavyweight. It wouldn't surprise me if it's after this fight, but never say never, because stranger things have happened in this sport. Guys, give me a prediction. What happens December 19th at the Alamo Dome? Very, very historical venue as well for a boxing match as well. Brilliant stadium, and I'm glad fans are going in there and tickets have gone on sale as of today, I believe. Prediction, guys. I sound like Eddie Hearn.
I think Canelo is going to stop him with a body shot within rounds 8 and 11.
Jermaine, Ron?
Yeah, like I said, I've just got a feeling there's been shocks this year already. Obviously with Teofimo Lopez beating Lomachenko, and I just believe this could be another one. Could be a great time for the fight to happen. I'm gonna go for a Smith win. I'm gonna go to stop him, Canelo. I've got a feeling he might stop Canelo, but being bigger man as well. I've got to believe he's gonna stop him in the 6th round.
Ron?
I've got to disagree with that. I can't see, if Canelo didn't go down in those 2 fights against Triple G, he's not going down against the likes of Callum Smith. No disrespect to him. Triple G is a tough SOB. So I see Canelo taking that on points. It'll be a clear points victory. I think he's still young. He's only 30. His game's come on leaps and bounds. And he's just added a new dimension to his boxing. So I think he'll be too clever, and he'll, land those decisive punches. And he's got that movement. I think his footwork's really improved as well. So Canelo on points.
As long as he doesn't have a steak before the fight, he should be all right. But it's going to be a very...
Yeah.
Let's move on. Let's talk about this weekend. I mean, which one do you get excited for? Daniel Dubois versus Joe Joyce. Arguably one of the biggest heavyweight fights of the year. And, of course, the return of Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. We'll talk a bit about Dubois versus Joyce first, because obviously we know there's so much riding on this fight. Let's talk about the belts that are on the line, British and the European. So it's the whole British outright and, of course, the European title as well. Both undefeated. The winner definitely has to be moving on to the bigger fights, especially in that WBO. We all know Dubois is, I believe he's ranked behind Usyk in the WBO, and Joe Joyce is not far off either. It's a brilliant fight, and you see, I look at this in 2 ways. One, the fight could have been built for another year, and 2, they've done exactly what everybody's asked for them to do, is make the fight now, and the fight is happening. It was scheduled to first happened in April, but due to the pandemic, the fight got rescheduled, I believe, after that. But we're getting it now. Saturday night, great fight. Disappointing there's going to be no fans, but hey, it is what it is. We're getting to see the fight. It's free. Credit to Frank Warren and Queensbury Promotions for doing that for the fans. I'm really, really looking forward to this fight. Guys, your thoughts on the fight on Saturday night between Daniel Dubois and the Juggernaut Joe?
Yeah, I'm excited for this fight. I'm really excited for this fight. I originally had tickets for the fight in April. Me and my colleague Nando from Pound for Pound, and obviously what happened now, obviously with COVID and stuff like that, it's been pushed back now. Fair play to both fighters, because for me this fight could have been a venue fight with a crowd. Could have been pushed back to 2021 quite easily, because it's that bigger fight. So fair play for both fighters for taking this fight, and when they're probably going to be making a loss if you think about it. My predictions for this fight, it's a 50-50 fight for me, and the reason why I say that is because Dubois has got a lot of power, and I believe that Joe Joyce is easy to hit. You look at him; he's very stagnant. His head movement's not that great, and he takes a lot of shots. He's a forward. He keeps coming forward, and he takes a lot of shots. And with Dubois, we never see him go late in the rounds. We never see him be taken to deep waters. And I believe Joe Joyce can take him to deep waters. So it's 50-50 fight. But for me, I just got a feeling that Dubois stops him quite early.
Yeah, you know what? The fact that you've mentioned that we've not seen Dubois go into deep waters, that's an interesting fact, because a lot of people, and even the pundits, if you've watched that sort of knockdown that Bunsey, Fury, and David Hay did, they all believe that the fight won't go into the later rounds. But again, it's 2 undefeated fighters. I mean, there's a potential chance that both fighters might not even look to finish the fight off early. As they say, styles make fights as well. But I think the real joy in this fight is that a lot of people have compared their sort of their resumes, their CVs, and a lot of people believe that neither has a very good, attractive CV, if you know what I mean. Neither's got a real big name. But if you look at Joe Joyce has beaten, he's beaten the likes of Ustinov, Jermaine, Stavern, Brian Jennings. They're actually good fighters, and Stavern, former world champion, and Jennings is, I believe, champion for a world title as well. So I do believe in terms of who's got the better CV, for me, it's Joe Joyce. But I just don't think that had that big test yet. Yeah, people say he's beaten Nathan Gorman, but there were reasons why Nathan Gorman performed like he did on that night. And I'm not going to go too deep into those reasons. And that's obviously not taking anything away from Nathan Gorman, but I just think we're going to see Daniel Dubois get tested on Saturday night. In terms of what happens, right, I'm going for Joe Joyce strictly because of his experience and strictly because I believe he's been in with the better of the caliber punches. I believe he's got a tank on him. I agree with what Jermaine says. I do think he gets hit quite often. I don't think he's got the greatest head movement. But I believe his experience of going into later rounds, fighting the better fighters, and because we've seen him rocked, I believe that's what gets him through the fight on Saturday night. What's your thoughts, guys? Who do you see on Saturday night?
I'm really glad that this fight got made. And I've got to give it to Frank One because it's both his fighters. They're both risking their O's in this fight. So they're both at different points of their careers, strangely enough. They're both young in the professional ranks. I think for Joe Joyce, he's got a lot more to lose. He's 35. If he loses this fight, where does he go from there? Daniel Dubois, if he loses, he can rebuild and take a free fight and get back into up those rankings. I definitely think so. From people I've spoken to and analysts, they kind of see this fight going two ways. They say either Dubois knocks him out early, they just kind of putting him down as a puncher and nothing else. And I think that's really underselling him as a fighter. I think he's got a phenomenal jab. That's one thing I really, really like about Daniel Dubois. I think that's really underrated about him. He's got power, he's got speed. And I think he's going to come out of the traps really quickly and jump on him, Joe Joyce. I mean, he's done that with all his fights, and you can see what he's done in his performance against Latte and who's that Japanese fighter that he fought recently as well. Yeah, but they're not the highest level of opposition, but regardless, he did what he had to do. Joe Joyce, for me, I think he's he looks really slow and sluggish. But he has got that boxing IQ, which you can't, rule out as playing a big factor in if he's going to be successful. My money is on Daniel Dubois. And, I wouldn't be surprised if it did go to the 12 rounds. And, Daniel Dubois will take it. But people are ruling that out as an option. Daniel Dubois has made it very clear that his intention is nothing but a KO. They'll be making their sleeping bag comments to each other. And Sam Jones has been very vocal and thinking, Joe Joyce is going to knock him out. I don't see that happening. The only time I really seen Daniel Dubois in trouble was against Richard Latte. But he showed, he ticked that box. He recovered from that, and he went on to win that fight as well.
What's your thoughts, Mohim? Who wins this one? This exciting heavyweight clash.
It's a very, it's a very 50-50 fight. Obviously, as you said, Joe Joyce has got, better fighters on his record. He's got Brian Jennings, he's got Ustinov, he's got even the Georgian fighter Lego Kilazi as well. And in his pro career, Joe Joyce has only been rocked by someone who's challenged for a world title, which was Brian Jennings. I think it was I don't remember what round. I think it was the 6th or 7th.
It was early in the fight, yeah.
Yeah. My bad. It was in the first few rounds. But, when it comes to this fight, I do see it going sort of Joe Joyce's way. I think Joe Joyce's pressure, his engine, just doesn't stop. He just keeps coming forward. And, the only shot that really hurt, Joe Joyce was a body shot. And if we go back to the amateurs, there's actually a pro fighter. There's a there's a pro fighter. I'm trying to think of his name. Russian for Michael Hunter. Sergey Kuzmin. Kuzmin. He actually fought Joe Joyce in the amateur, and Kuzmin was the legitimate first opponent that managed to KO Joe Joyce in the amateurs as well. So if you look at that fight, and if you watch the fight in the, I forgot what that tournament was called, when he fought Usyk, when Joe Joyce fought Usyk, ever since that time he's been really improving. And I don't think Dubois has ever really been in the ring with anyone like Joyce in amateur or pro. So obviously Joe Joyce fought. Obviously, I'm going to bring the sort of amateur background again. He fought Fraser Clark 6 times or 5 times, and he knocked him out all 5 times. So we can see, he's a well-proven amateur. He's obviously won the Olympics as well. So there's no doubt about that. Amateur and pro, his pedigree is higher than Dubois. But Joyce does get hit a lot. You can't afford to get hit by someone like Dubois. He's a very big puncher. And I think Dubois is improving, but I personally haven't seen anything big off Dubois yet. So that's about it, really. The knockout I was very impressed of was the Razvan Kojanu, and the other fights like Fujimoto, Ricardo Snyder's. To be honest, I wasn't really impressed because obviously they're not really proper heavyweights. Snyder's boxes at light heavy and cruiser. Fujimoto used to fight lightweights in Japan, so obviously I've got either Joe Joyce winning by stoppage in the late rounds or probably win by decision. I think it might go to the judges' scorecard personally.
It's an exciting fight either way. I mean, they're both undefeated. Frank Warren's got big plans from both. You know what? Even if Joe Joyce lost, I still think regardless of his age, I still think he could rebuild because there's going to be big fights out there for him. And Joe Joyce is at that age where they're not going to feed him journeyman, regardless of what happens, a win or a defeat on Saturday night. They're just going to put him into these big fights now. They have to anyway because of what's going on in the world. There's no time to be prancing around fighters. These fighters that are 12-0, 15-0, they need to be in these tests, and I think this test will be good for the likes of Daniel Dubois, and of course we'll know more about Daniel Dubois and we'll know more about Joe Joyce. But I just think I don't think Dubois has been tested enough, and if he lost on Saturday night, it wouldn't surprise me because Joe Joyce is a good fighter. He's got a serious tank on him. It's a good fight. I'm looking forward to it. Final topic. Let's just get our quick thoughts on the return of Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. a little later on BT Sports that night. Just want to go over the facts of the fight. No knockouts allowed. No judges ringside. A winner will not be declared. If a cut occurs, the fight is over. 8 rounds for 2 minutes each. And it's an exhibition, so no bets allowed. So whoever fancies getting lucky in Vegas that night, you best bet go back home. And Israel Adesanya is commentating in the fight. And it's a box office event. But people's excuse to that is it's Mike Tyson. Well, with the pandemic, the economy is fucked. That money going towards this fight may not seem like a lot of money, but it is a lot of money. Jermaine, start off with you. Are you excited for this on Saturday night? I am. Tyson's back, but I'm excited to a certain extent.
You know what? I was actually excited for this fight until the rules came into play, and I thought, what the hell was going on? Yeah, I don't know if I'll be watching this fight, to be honest, because I think it's a bit of a mockery to boxing, to be honest. I'm not, like you said, we see with these fights of the YouTubers, like of KSI and Logan Paul and them sorts, and I thought that was a mockery to sport. And I don't know, you got 2 legends like this coming back to fight in a fight like this. I think it kind of tarnishes the sport. That's just my opinion. Yeah, I just think obviously you got two legends of the sport. I would like to see them go at it one more time properly with no rules, just the normal rules of if you get knocked out, you get knocked out. Bets being involved, no cuts. Basically, if you get cut, you carry on until if the cut is really bad, it pretty closes up, then obviously the fight stops. But when you brought these rules into play, for me, I think it kind of took a bit of, I don't know. I think it took a bit of gloss away from the fight, and yeah, I'm not really looking forward to it. And the fact that there's not going to be no winner is another thing as well. So for me, I just think, I don't know, I just think, yeah, it's not worth it.
No, it's Ron, Mohim, let's get your thoughts quickly.
So can I just clarify on the rule? So what if somebody is knocked out? So what happens? Do they wait for them to? Do they wake them up and come on, Mike? You know, or come on, Roy. It's for charity. Come on, lad. How does it work? I mean, I find the rules a bit strange. I'll be honest, but I understand it is not going to go on their professional records, I imagine.
No. I wouldn't be surprised they just tap each other for they're going on like they're both in their prime, and it's it's for an undisputed clash or something. But these rules coming out, I mean, nah.
It's taken a little bit of shine away from the event, hasn't it? What are your? I mean, Mohim, what are your thoughts? I mean,
you know what? I think they've just made probably they've probably made thousands of people like they've sort of made thousands of people not actually buy it. Like they should have announced this after the fight, because now that the fans know that it's there's no winner, there's going to be no knockouts, there's not going to be no judges. So now a lot of people aren't going to buy the pay-per-view. So when I was scrolling through Instagram today, I was seeing a lot of people make comments. There's an Instagram platform I follow called Frankie Knuckles, and I think there was about 600 comments. People just saying, what, I'm not going to buy the pay-per-view. I'm just going to live stream on VIP box. And it's the fact that they've announced it. 3 or 4 days before the fight is just the worst thing you can do. Like they're probably losing out on, I mean, I don't know, what the numbers were going to be before, but it's definitely going to be over 100K, on box office worldwide. And, for them doing that, marketing-wise, it's probably the worst thing they could have ever done. I think in America, it costs about $40. I'm not sure. But in the UK, it costs $19.99, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah, yep. So it's mad. But, yeah, no, obviously, I do have a feeling Mike's going to try and go for a knockout. But again, people are saying Mike's going to, knock him out if they were to actually fight. But Tyson's only had 8 fights in the last 21 years, and Roy Jones has had 32. So,
wow. If
they were to actually go in,
I mean, like, if we move away from that it's not an actual proper fight.
Yeah.
I mean, I was fortunate enough to grow up with Mike Tyson. Watching his fights and being inspired by him, and loved his press conferences and his baddest man on the planet kind of attitude. And I remember his run-in with Lennox Lewis, and what he said to him, those famous words. What was it again? I'm gonna fuck you till you love me, or something. Or and if you're someone who's just seen YouTube clips of this young teenager tearing through the heavyweight division, and then on the other hand you've seen these artistry, the skills of Roy Jones Jr., the phenomenal hand speed and the unorthodox boxing style, this is a great opportunity for you to watch a great event of two fighters who at one point could have come together in their professional ranks, but it didn't happen for whatever reason. At the time, both of them were on their different trajectories, but destiny has it that they're to meet, in 2020, in a year of lots of kind of dark days, and we've got this to look forward to. I think, it could potentially be really interesting to watch, but they're both in their 50s, and Mike Tyson, to be credited with him, I saw a picture of him a couple of months ago and a picture of him now, and I think he's lost about 100-something pounds or something. But I know that Roy Jones Jr. has kept himself fit and in shape, and he's training someone like Chris Eubank Jr. So he's in the boxing gym regularly. So that could give him this slight advantage here going into this fight.
Only one way to find.
Obviously, Mohim mentioned about the 32 fights that he's had in the last 8 whatever years. In comparison to Mike Tyson, he had a lot of kind of out of boxing, kind of out of the ring issues as well. So
only one way to find out. I think because of the charity, I think as much as we would all like to see, I mean, sorry, as we were saying before we got cut off, listen, it's nice to see them both come back because they're both iconic figures of the sport. But it would have also been nice to have been, had that who's going to win, who's have they still got it in them? Can Mike Tyson do it one more time, show us all that explosiveness about him? Or can we see those great boxing skills that Roy Jones Jr. has or had? I mean, but now that these rules have come into play, like, it kind of has taken the excitement away from it slightly. But again, look, they're doing it for charity, and we all want to see knockouts and we all want to see, punch-ups. But what we all really want to see is both fighters get out of the ring safely and go back home to their family safely, as Tony Bellew used to say on a regular basis. But as long as both fighters walk out there safe and nobody gets seriously hurt. But again, the question is, what if someone does get seriously hurt? I mean, who gets held accountable for it? Because these are two fighters that are, I believe Tyson is 54 and Roy Jones Jr. is
51.
And
I think.
is 50?
51, I think, or 52. I don't know. 51.
But regardless, because they're both at a certain age where they don't need to be doing this anymore, because they both achieved so much in their careers. Like I said, iconic figures of the sport.
I was going to add that you never know if this really is a spectacle of an event. We can see other 50-something old boxers come back into the ring. There's a few names, Holyfield. You can imagine him throwing his hat in the ring. He'll want to be a piece of that. Lennox Lewis mentioned something in his last interview as well. So it could open up another division of boxing, if you want to call it veterans boxing. Or
I agree with that. You've got De La Hoya think about making a return as well.
Yeah.
De La Hoya. So I'll be surprised if Bernard Hopkins makes another return as well. So it might just open up the floodgates for all these veterans coming out and fighting again.
Might as well get Bob Byran to apply for a boxing license and giving him out that easily. But
Bob Byran versus Don King.
Listen, everyone wants to see the one. If there's going to be promoters fighting, Eddie Hearn versus Frank Warren, that's the fight we all want to see in terms of the promoters. But no, look, I mean, I just don't know what to make of it. But I will say this: I do believe Mike Tyson knocks out 85% of the current heavyweights just because of that power he's got. That's what I personally believe. I believe right now, till today, he knocks out 85% of the heavyweights. Guys, your thoughts on it? Can he do it? Do you reckon? Let's say let's say Mike Tyson knocks him out on Saturday night, even though he's not allowed to, because it's a game of tiddlywinks. It's not a fight, and he knocks him out, and then people in the heavyweight division are like, do you know what? I'll fight, or I'll have a fight with you, or I want you. Can you see Mike Tyson coming back into the current heavyweight division and beating any of the heavyweights right now?
Did you watch Rocky 5 last night or something?
All right, Rocky Balboa, get it right, okay? That was a great by Rocky.
Yeah, Rocky 5? Yeah, it was Rocky. Yeah, Rocky Balboa. Sorry, my bad. Yeah.
Okay, he lost on points, but Jermaine, as you were saying.
No, I believe if he was to win, obviously he can't win, but obviously if he was to win, I believe he'd probably want to fight someone at heavyweight just to get a payday. I mean, I don't believe he would go in there with the champions at the moment, the current likes of Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury. I believe he'd try and sucker someone like a Deontay Wilder as well, but maybe fight outside the championship spot if we go for. But for me, and why do it? He's a legend in a way. Like, why do you need to put your health at risk and your legacy at risk as well? So I don't believe he'll fight after this again.
Mike Tyson versus Derek Chisora. I'd pay for that.
Imagine the press conference.
I'm just saying it. The press conference would probably be better than the fight, but I'd actually pay for Mike Tyson versus Derek Chisora. Look, if we're all right to give the thumbs up for him to have a charity event against Roy Jones Jr., And why can't the guy have a fight with someone like a Chisora or a Dillian White? Like, if we're all expecting these two to murder each other on Saturday night, so what's the difference if you fight someone way younger than him? I don't get it. Like, oh, because he's fighting a guy that's similar to his age, it doesn't make sense. Like, we know, listen, if we're going by the Mike Tyson that we know, he's looking to knock Roy Jones Jr. out on Saturday night. And again, I know I mentioned as long as both go home safe and no one gets hurt, I would love to see Mike Tyson do it one more time. But when he's doing it to a guy that's over 50 years of age, then maybe it doesn't call for a nice ending. But yeah, Ron, honestly, now that it's close to us, it's going to happen on Saturday night. What do you want to see? Be honest with me. Don't sit on the fence like, I hope both brush each other's hair and I hope they both pat each other on the back and 8 rounds just goes by and nothing serious happens. Be realistic. What do you want to see happen?
I want to see flashes from their past. You know, I mean, this is who we, you know, when we're bored, when we want to see exciting fighters, this is one of the first few boxers that we would YouTube. Someone like Mike Tyson, and in his heyday when he was 19, 20, 21, when he was the youngest heavyweight champion of the world. I want to see, you know, Roy Jones Jr. with that phenomenal hand speed and the array of skills that he used to, you know, show in his fight, and that the audacity, you know, the cockiness. I'd love to see elements of that in that fight. But, you know, we've got to bear in mind they're 50 years old. You know, what do they have? I mean, back to what you said earlier. I don't want to see them either of them in a ring with any of the current heavyweights. It's just not. No, I think for health reasons, it's just not, you know, appropriate to do that. I'd love to see Evander Holyfield come in, Bernard Hopkins. You know, I'd like to see the veterans boxing kind of take off. That's my prediction, anyway. No, fine.
Absolutely no. Mohim, let's be honest. Be honest with the lads. I mean, what is it that you want to see on Saturday night? And again, like Ron, don't sit on the fence. Don't, you know, brush it under the carpet. Do you want to see someone get knocked the fuck out, or do you just want to see that's it? Bye now. See you in 10 years when I make another comeback.
You know what? If I was, well, you know, I don't know if I will be awake for that fight, but you know, I'm going to try my best to. Knowing that there's not going to be no knockouts, but I would definitely like to see a knockout. Come on, like you can't be tuning in to watch Mike Tyson and him just sort of play around. You know, the last exhibition fight he had was against a guy called Corey Sanders. Guys, it's not the Corey Sanders from South Africa. It's actually a different Corey Sanders, and that was the time when he went sort of light. But obviously, does it make sense for him and Roy to go for a war? Probably not health-wise, definitely not health-wise, but I want to see a knockout. You know, it's not like I'm in the ring. I'm the audience. You know, if I'm the person paying, I definitely want to watch a knockout. There's no way, you know, I would want to go in there and watch like a, you know, I don't want to see a Lawrence Okoli fight. You know, I don't want to see that. I want to see a knockout. And obviously, talking about veteran boxing, there's actually one of the former world champions called Oliver McCall. He actually still fights. I think he's 58 now. And he actually beats fighters, which is pretty impressive. And I know before the Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones, Briggs actually put his name free. So Briggs would be a good fight with, I think, Chisora. So obviously, imagine the press conference in that.
For 10 years now. It's just the guy doesn't stop. Shout out Shannon Briggs, though.
Yeah.
Jermaine, where do you stand on this? Like, what is it that you want to see? I mean, I don't know if you're staying up on Saturday night. Me being the boxing lover that I am, I'm probably going to set an alarm for a certain time come Sunday morning and just see it. I'm not going to buy it on the stream online. What do you want to see on Saturday night if you are watching it, or when you wake up in the morning to watch highlights?
Well, I'll probably be on my way to work at that time, so I probably might watch it on my phone. If I'm honest, I'll be streaming it. I won't be paying money to watch that, if I'm honest, because if I'm paying $9.99 for a fight, I want to get a knockout, if I'm honest. And you pay $9.99 for Anthony Joshua fight or a Dillian White fight with Betkin. So you want to see a knockout there. So if I'm going to pay the same price here, I want to see a knockout, even if it is between two former legends. But no, I just think it's going to be a lot of hugging and little body shots thrown and stuff like that. I don't really think it's going to be a big fight. I can't really see it being an enjoyable fight. And for me, being a real boxing fan and a fan who loves the sport, for seeing top quality fights, I won't be watching that fight if I'm honest. I don't think I'll be watching it. I might watch YouTube highlights the next day, but for me, I won't be watching. I won't be tuning in, unfortunately.
So, that's your decision, and you know what? A lot of people from jumping on social media to after that was released have more or less said the same. There's like £20 to not see a proper fight, and we're not just talking about two normal fights from the past. We're talking about two greatest of all time. And again, just if you don't believe me, just do a bit of research, check the history out, because they both had phenomenal careers. People consider Roy Jones Jr. as one of the greatest of all time, and they consider Tyson as one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. But do you know what? Like, just this whole situation. Just look at why couldn't this have been done 20, 25 years ago? I mean, Roy Jones won the heavyweight title. Just why couldn't it have been done then? What did it lack then? Why do it now? But better late than never, as they say. But yeah, guys, listen, that's all we've got time for. Jermaine, Mohim, and Ron, pleasure as always. And again, we'll be sharing the Pound for Pound Boxing Show and Boxing Domination's social media platforms in the description below. Again, guys, thank you very much for your time. And again, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Check us out on all the social medias as well. We'll be putting the links to our social medias in the description. And that's all we've got time for podcast 20. And we look forward to speaking to you guys soon. Thank you very much for listening to the Lights Out Boxing Podcast.